Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an AJx, where today we got ourselves a track from an act named AFM, titled AJx2, which stands for Ambient Jersey Club Mix 2. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track here on SoundCloud. We have this pipe on screen with "We're excited for the art." We're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. I should also note that I'm going to be scoring this track based on various musical criteria at the end during the overall analysis section, but for now, let's go, let's do it. AJx2. I like that transition there with the squeakies. Interesting rhythm with those vocal chops. Adding notes to those harmonies. Cool. Nice and short and sweet. Ambient Jersey Club Mix 2. We're going to be talking about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from AFM, titled AJx2, which again stands for Ambient Jersey Club Mix 2. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. First of all, I should note that I gave the song an overall score of 7.8 out of 10 based on the various musical criteria that I've got down at the bottom of the screen. But before we go any further, what do we think this track is about? I think if anything, this track is more sort of trying to describe just a chilled out kind of low-key nightclub theme. It's got some interesting sort of like atmospheric textures in it that make it sound sort of mystical and ethereal, whilst offering a sense of coolness and quite suave with the way that those kicks and basses pull forward with a subtlety that I'm not really used to. Often people will push mixes to be quite loud, but I like that there's a sufficient amount of dynamic range here. There weren't vocals in this so much as there were vocal chops, which is why I gave them a score. And I think that those melodies, as well as the harmonies and way you built them and staircased over time throughout the track, was effective. I think, yeah, honestly, you didn't need much more than, I mean, the storytelling isn't as necessary, especially in a shorter form factor like this, where you're kind of more enjoying the combination of elements and how they build over time. At, 53 seconds long, it's one of the shortest tracks I think I've ever reviewed there, and it's just interesting how recently with a lot of the music I've been checking out, we are getting shorter. Like, we're not taking the listener's attention for granted. These are sort of isolated little concepts that we're maybe even sort of like testing to see how people find them before we explore and build them into bigger creations. And I dig that kind of, that sampling, so to speak, of what's to come. I hope that we continue to experiment with textures like this. So ultimately, yeah, I think that the way that it builds from the start and finishes at the end is just this nice sort of gradual crescendo, so to speak. It builds an intensity there without ever becoming too overwhelming. You've just got this wonderful, lush, sort of really chill synth at the beginning there, just kind of playing these sequence notes in a steady pattern there that kind of insinuates a sense of flow and tempo within the piece without being too direct about it. And it sets a mood in terms of textures and timbres for the rest of it with like those reverbs. It's a kind of very neutral note as well. It's not too characterized. As we go into those pads that we have a bit later on, around like the 12-second mark there, and those vocal chops come in, you get a lot of more to kind of fill in the stereo field as well as the frequency spectrum, and the track sounds a lot thicker because of that. Also, that kind of minimalist flow with the kicks and those clappy kind of snares there, those sort of trappy elements there are effective primarily because they're sort of staccato, they're very short in comparison to the held notes and other parts of those synths. We also have these squeaky sounds, which are an interesting syncopated element within the production. I'd say that because often you'll get cymbals, and in order to make a track sound out, or to stand out, so to speak, you kind of need to add something a bit different. It kind of insinuates maybe there is some stuff going on more so than just being at the nightclub. You've got like bird sounds as well. The car has kind of like an accenting device to illustrate a further sense of transfer between parts, which is a nice sort of substitute for a crash. I dig that. Again, we're using a different type of tone there to make it a bit more sort of unique. And this like bass underneath it all there, that maybe I would presume it is an 808 there, is just a nice sort of friendly, palatable lower sub bass layer that doesn't overstay its welcome and niches quite nicely in amongst the different it's side chaining. The kicks are side chaining it, to be fair, the percussion is side chaining, but like it plays neatly alongside the synth pads and other elements within the arrangement. It doesn't compete. The frequency spectrum is niched, both from a composition and a production perspective. And I like that we kind of take this turn of being a bit less predictable with our bassline chord progression near the end, where like it's not necessarily a thematic comment insofar as it's more of just a kind of a plot twist. We could have potentially have safely done another loop of that same sort of like transfer between the notes. We decided to kind of keep on that sense of tension for that last part as things built a bit, and you got the culmination of all the elements that were instantiated earlier. But it's just very sort of like low-key regardless. Everything sounds quite nice and relaxed there. I think it is because of the individual textures, tones, and timbres of the instruments. There's no sort of sharp sound. I mean, to be fair, the percussion is kind of pointed and the squeaky parts are kind of raw, but they are balanced out by the more sort of ghostly, wistful parts going on alongside it. And so thematically, this track is full of extensions there, where it's got this kind of like lo-fi sort of minor element and leaning to it, but it's so bright and it shimmers because of the mid and upper range or elements, as well as kind of the crow and squeaky sounds. You don't feel too depressed while you're listening to it. It's more of a quote-unquote vibe track where it's trying to add some sort of specificity to what it wants to provide as a unique concept, and it's not trying to be too literal about what you're supposed to feel about it. It's open to interpretation because of the complexity of some of those extensions across the different notes and chords that are included, especially as we go forth. It's a big change from the start of the track where things are relatively minimalist with those single notes. And so ultimately, when you combine all those elements there, again, it just flies by. It's such a short track. To be fair, I'm not sure how we could have added much to this further than this, primarily because we already felt like we had so much by that 50-second mark. So maybe it was just long enough by itself, and you could probably get away with an album of some of the tracks like this and it would be enjoyable for people. It'd be like popcorn, basically. And again, I don't think having a more sort of like dominant lead line would have benefited this. I think it was more about the journey you went on for as short a time as it was. Studio recording, mixing, and mastering, though, it was fantastic. I like the way that the different sort of like vocal chops and the way that those were built and presented in the mix with the really subtle harmonies there as they allocated to mid or uppers, as well as, again, the percussion, the bass, the synth pads, the synth leads at the start there, and all those other sort of air candy-ish bits, as well as the squawks and stuff like that I might have missed. Just the way that those all come together, surround you in the stereo field, getting bigger over time. Music fills the frequency spectrum up in the subs, lows, mids, and highs, as well as you go along with some unconventional tones and textures to help it stand out. No issues with leveling, nice side chaining of the kicks. There's sufficient dynamic range, things aren't too squeezed, and so the bus compression and limiting is handled. And so effectively, I've got no applicable constructive critique for this. I just think it's a great isolated concept. You know, like my final general listener's perspective, it's just nice to hear someone just make a really tight short form track that they're comfortable with, that hints that there is a lot of promise and potential with things to come. I wish them all the best of luck in future. It's a kind of a rainy day where I live at the moment, so it's the perfect time to listen to a track like this. So it's just serendipitous, I guess, that I get to review it. But thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named AFM, titled AJx2, or Ambient Jersey Club Mix 2. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show some love via the various social medias and their SoundCloud page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time. It's need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.